man. So we're just saying that, solidarity is a key thing to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. And we're saying,
Wish I could say sisters.
we just want to say that, we stand on principle. And not just in words, but in deeds. Yeah, man, stand on principle.
Bingi, Okavango, Rasdada, Yaga, Chuck Fender, the living fire represent to the fullest. See? Perfect balance. Don't know so. Trad class. Living fire represent. Keep the fire burning out. What Emmanuel I Celestia, keep it like right. This is it.
Is very, very fundamental to us. It's a non-negotiable item on our agenda. We start from certain positions of principle. One, Cuba is our nearest neighbor. Cuba is a member of the third world like us. Three, Cuba fights at our side for changes in the world economic system. Four, we find Cuba the most principled country to deal with. They operate on a basis of respect for sovereignty and non-interference in other people's internal affairs. They have an internationalist policy that if you say to them, come and be my friend, we think you have certain skills that are interesting. We think you've done certain things that are interesting. We would like to have a look at what you've done. Would you like to cooperate with us in a field? They say, fine. If you don't want to cooperate, they say, fine. We have long since understood that they are on a particular path of development that is obviously massively supported by their people and which is a product of their objective circumstances. Their revolution arose out of the horrors of one of the worst tyrannies the world had ever known. And a lot of their experience is conditioned by that fact. We are a totally different thing. We had a different kind of society, different traditions. We had a functioning plural democracy. And we're on what we call our democratic socialist path of development, which has certain points of similarity with theirs, but very substantial points of difference with theirs, and we respect each other. But even more important than all of that, and this is what is non-negotiable to us, Cuba is a legitimate part of the world and this hemisphere. And it has one of the most legitimate governments in the world because legitimacy is a function of popular support and nothing else. Nothing else legitimizes except people.
What do you them think about the little reasoning why the late Michael Manley just expound on as it relates to the relations between Jamaica and Cuba?
All right. See, we know people stay now. And what do you hear? We beat Manley cousin Buster. Wicked. See? We beat him wicked. And now we see on the flip side, within the same family, Manley has come out and done some good things, really good things, and stand on principle for Jamaica. And that's the most important point I take away from the reasoning. And without politicizing this, because we not say red and we not say green, we are Rasta. Rasta we different, Rasta government. See? So we are make that clear to our listeners, and we are make that clear to the detractors that this is based on principle and non-partisan. That is our approach in the reason.
It's apolitical.
Yeah, man. So most of them do. See? And if we look on a lot of the work that he did in his time, workers' rights, women rights, education, see? Which was probably a part of his demise because him give free education and the funding was not there for it because somewhere along the line, Spanner is thrown in his spokes and disrupt the work. So he never work out as him planned it. And because of his alliance with Cuba, we find the instability comes in where they've made several attempts on his life. And we spoke about that in Mia Motley's video. And Mia Motley stand on principles just like Michael Manley in this dispensation.
Yes, I see. Michael Manley is a virgin from them time. We know him stand on principles, and we see the history of it, and we know what happened in that time because he stand on principles. We talk about the the Americans again. There were a lot of sanction because they saw him as leaning towards, because when him talk about Cuba, like when him talk about Cuba in a good way, they saw him as leaning towards communism and even socialism. Because especially in those times, it was a no, and there was a lot of sanctions. I would say they get him out and put in their person who they wanting, who was Siaga. Yeah, so yeah, man, I was stand on principle.
Yeah, but not only that, recognizing that Cuba is standing on principle, right? His statement is very profound
Yeah,
on,
man.
on how he recognizes Cuba and her stance, right? This country who is being ran by principle, Fidel Castro to be specific on how he's leading this socialist uh country or communist country as they claim Cuba to be. But the interesting thing, for a lot of people when they listen to the term social or socialism, for example, and what they think of it, I think they think about all these restrictions, but socialism is really designed like that, right? Because United Kingdom is a democratic socialist country. Australia, Spain, Tanzania,
Norway,
Germany.
Sweden.
Yeah, there are a lot of countries that are democratic socialist countries. But one of the things we could point out about these countries is the standard of living for people too and how people live within these countries. Some of these countries, when you look at them, they have some of the best systems of living because it's social living. Social living is the best, is where everybody share everything, right? And I think we in the West, I think we have been taught to fear socialism without examining what socialism really is. And now we have countries that we talk about on a daily basis and we don't even realize that they're social or the democratic socialist countries, including the United Kingdom, right? So as being one of the most popular of those countries, right? Australia as well, South Africa. So Cuba taking this stance wasn't just Cuba taking a stance because she wanted to align with communism or China or Russia. She was given she came to America first for help. Cuba, Castro came to America. They will refuse help. So he went to the next best thing he had, or which was Russia and China. But I tell you the one
Soviet
thing.
Union.
Yeah, at the Soviet Union at the time. But the one thing that we must applaud Cuba for and Castro for, once he developed that relationship, he never shifted from it. There was no shifting tide. There was no way he was turning back. The man was a man of principle, no matter what you say. Principle, and I think that's the important thing when we listen to Manley speak,
Because,
though.
yeah, one thing that I took away from it, and I would hope others did as well, and can really appreciate the value of what he's saying, was when he said that Cuba is one of the best countries that to deal with in terms
Mhm.
of, I would understand it to mean when they say something, that is what they're gonna do.
Yes,
And
yes,
and and
principle.
and that is the part that I took away from it when I say, yo, wow. Especially in the environment that we are present day, where people go in these relations and these all the time, they say one thing and then completely do the opposite. So to have a person that you can deal with on a national geopolitical level and be confident that your agreements are going to stand. I think that that is a valuable point and something that anyone would welcome in geopolitical relations.
That has to
That
mean
is the
something.
principle.
That has to mean something.
Yeah. A lot, a lot, a lot.
And
Because
go ahead,
think
Benji.
about it. Even in the environment of embargo and restrictions and all of that, Cuba under Castro could have easily shifted, could have really easily moved their position
They could have
and say,
folded.
boy, yeah, and
They could have
folded
folded.
under the pressure and say,
Mhm.
but no, that's what we talk about principle. This is a man who showed you, hey, listen, man, if you say you're going to do something,
I'm
do it.
doing it.
Like, stick by it. Under no circumstance you move from it, especially if you know this is the right thing
Thing
to
to
do.
do. Yeah,
And
man.
I think, yeah, very important, man.
And the next thing to me that stood out as well, where he says that, you know, the legitimacy of Cuba, the
Yes, sir.
legitimacy, because that's a strong word, you know. And then he goes and he says, the thing that defines legitimacy is the popular saying of the people. So the people are saying, this is our leader, this is our government, this is what we're doing. And that in and of itself makes it legitimate because they have made a choice. Even though the narrative is that they have no choice, but we see it coming out that no, the people have made a choice that this is the way we're going and this is what we're doing, irrespective of what you're saying. And that legitimizes them, you know?
The
Absolutely.
people stood by him during the adversity from them time until this time. And the flip side, what we are seeing now happening in the Caribbean, where people are being threatened with restrictions of their travel documents. And we see Marco traveling to Jamaica to have discussion with the Prime Minister in the coming week ahead. We are not aware of what that agenda is, but we know Jamaica carries a significant weight within the Caribbean in the geopolitical sphere. Now, just imagine the people of Jamaica living in this time and to fathom living under sanction like Cuba. They will fold again.
Not happening,
They will
brother.
fold again
Not happening, brother.
because
We
they
don't have the
want to live
leaders for
that
that.
dream. They want to have
We
that
don't have the
lifestyle
leaders
that
for
they
that.
cannot have anyway.
Listen, it's not even gonna go that far. It's the,
Right.
once the US go down there and outline what need to be done,
It's done.
That's it.
it's done.
Fire.
It's done.
Listen
It's
to
true.
what them said them go do to ensure that what them want done is done. They're going to restrict your visa. It is not, oh, you can't trade and make your money. You cannot do anything towards affecting you
That's the first
economically.
step. That's the
Them
first
say, listen,
chance.
no, we agree, but I'm
That's the
saying,
first chance of sanction.
and look how many people, already fooled just at a threat of losing a visa.
Mm-hmm. They
Imagine
need
talk
to.
to
They
Bounty
need.
Killer and he will tell you. Talk to Vice Cartel and he will tell you about the visa restrictions. Talk to Buju Banton. They will tell you about the visa restrictions and the pressure that it brought onto them.
It never bring them no. It never bring all a cartel. You know, bring cartel and no pressure. Cause see cartel, the man rich and never have a visa. So it's how you deal. Is how you choose to
But
deal with the
but
thing.
but that of them still look points that it may have a visa in a richer.
Yeah, but may I say that? But you can't say that. You can't say anything. But the reality is, you never have a visa, and him come rich.
And him rich.
You understand what I say? So
But
that's the
people look
reality.
on the money they have, you know, look on the money they can make.
Because they
Yeah.
are looking at it from an individualistic point of view. Because a man feel that him green card is threatened if him travel because that is where the stake is at now. Or if him have a visa, he might travel upon his visa and then send him back a yard. So he can't
Yeah.
afford for that happen.
But,
So him not stand
but we know say
collective responsibility or solidarity with nothing like that.
in this region, America is a big bad bully, and you know what I mean, when we talk about the Caribbean Highlands, they can say things and say that, but the power is not really there. Because one sanction and the people start feel it, and then it's turmoil.
collapse.
And the government
We
don't want that.
don't have the leaders to that, brother. We don't have the leaders to that,
I'm
brother.
not even leaders. They don't have, I don't even know.
We
The
don't have the
people.
leaders to
If the
that,
System. You
brother.
don't
leaders
have the
stand on
systems in
principle,
place.
if the leaders stand on principle and say that them are go do, then for stand on the
Yeah,
principle
but
because
you don't have these
Yeah,
systems
but
in place to
remember, you know,
support that.
the people
Yeah.
dictate what the leaders are going to do.
the people not dictate nothing, brother. Because
Listen,
the leader is not even providing for the needs of the people and the country. We don't see no food are produced in Jamaica.
Yaga, if Jamaica people here say, them a tap get America visa.
A problem.
The government in a power have to lift up.
Yeah,
And the
man, a
government
problem.
want to stay in a power, so them not going to do
Just
that.
because
A
them you know
problem.
say you have new foreign the boat, man.
Them no want to go new foreign, old foreign they want to go.
Yo, my lad, but on a real tip still, you know, like you see, as we just say even the other day, you know, the reason why I say, you know, remember I say a food them use, you know, I met them one them fold, you know, the thing with the 70s and the 80s, you know, food, you know, brother. Something like food, my lad, where you can grow your food, brother. And you go make food. You see me?
And that is a part of the reason
That
why we're not
some time you fry up,
That's
you know, say, you
important.
know, even when you grow food, you know, you still need like other like a necessary thing, you know.
Like
So
what?
they come, yeah, man, this other food where you need,
Like what? Like what? Like what?
yeah, maybe they can't
Hold
be
him,
specific.
brother.
Now.
Hold him,
All right,
brother.
let's say potato,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica don't plant enough potato for the use of Jamaicans, so they import potato. So maybe I go say no plant potato, but if they plant potato, there's another crop I go plant less. You understand?
Why would you say that? Look how much land in a
All
Jamaica
right.
not being cultivated.
Yo, in the
And
80s,
every land can be cultivated
in
either.
the 80s,
Because if I start cultivate all of the land, they not no tree, you not no
brother,
you not no
brother,
forest.
what heap of land they were still not use. In the 80s, them have a piece of land in a Clarendon named Spring Plain. If you know a toll gate, when you turn left at toll gate, or right coming from Mandeville, left coming from Kingston, they used to plant over 6,000 acres of land. But the things that they used to produce was muskmelon, watermelon, plummy tomato, and a lot of these things used to produce in the 80s. See? And because of the price volatility, they were able to compete with the American farmers in producing these. Even though the company was owned by a Jamaican, it was an Israeli who owned the company. See? And you find that the company bust. But we were also involved in implementing the technology, because that is when they brought the irrigation technology to Jamaica. We find papaya start boom, banana start boom. You understand? And one of them things they are going on, and over time, brother, we find say them start do a lot of things, funny things go on the Spring Plain now, because our plane used to take off from Spring Plain, you know. We find that the man them own it, used to ship other produce apart from the produce that they were producing allegedly. You understand? So it was a front in the sense, but they didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. They still carried on doing what they are doing.
Doing what they're
So
doing.
if we find that model where we start putting back the lands into use, and to be honest and to be fair to the government, they've implemented some agro-processing plants, but without the investment to go into the agro-processing plants and giving people 5 acres of land here and there, we're not gonna see the return and the investment that you expect to be, because
And subsidies for the farmers.
it's only
Subsidies for the farmers. That means that they can compete.
it's only words. There's nothing to go behind it. There's nothing to go behind it. So if you want the agro-processing plant to be effective and produce food to feed the nation, you have to put the investment in it. Let the people who have the land can invest and produce.
And the next thing too is that we find that a lot of things wasted together. A lot of things wasted. Like for example, we use a simple example, right? Like in Jamaica, Jamaica used to be a major producer of bananas, right? But in Jamaican people don't eat the shoot of the banana. Them throw it away. Right? Them
Neither
throw
the
it away.
trunk, neither the trunk of the banana.
Right? Them throw it away. But yet still you have nations that is a major cuisine.
Yeah, man.
So
In the Philippines.
if all right, so if the leaders were aware of these things, they wouldn't throw those things away, because they would find a market
and add
where they
value.
could send these things and use it as a value. You shake your head, Okavango. Why you shake your head?
How much banana should you eat daily?
And dashing
I
leaf.
don't eat it. That's what I'm saying. We don't
And
eat it, but there are
dashing leaf.
places that
But
do.
you have banana in your yard all the while. I run here, you don't eat it.
And that
So why you never eat it?
I'm not, I
Because you
don't know if
don't
we
know.
prepare it.
You're not aware.
I don't know how
That's
to
That's what
why
I
you're
mean, I
prepare it.
say, you
eating.
say you don't
You're
eat it,
not
you can't
aware.
blame government for you not eating banana shoot.
That's not what I'm
You're
saying,
not aware.
Okavango. I am
You say?
saying the banana was exported out of Jamaica
Because we don't name
on
Right.
a
them banana
large
there at
scale.
Jamaica. We don't eat them banana there. When you boil it, it's
Every
too
one of
tough.
those banana carry a shoot.
Shoot.
Right.
So what I'm saying is
Which remain in Jamaica.
right and just go to waste.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying if they were aware that there are places that have a market for this, they could use the shoot as an additional source of income for the nation instead of it just going to waste. You understand? As you talk about agri-processing plants, right? You have stuff like pepper, stuff like tomato, highly perishable goods, right? Sometimes if they're not reaped in time, them start go off. A lot of those things used to just be thrown away. Give thanks, we see them doing it with pepper now, where them actually establish these companies where we buy those peppers to use in the production of like hot pepper sauce and stuff like that, right? But I'm saying a lot of stuff like where these crops are kind of going up, where people might not want to buy it on the table or as a thing to use like that.
Ketchup.
They can you understand, use it to make other
Refine
goods.
it.
So it's not just wasted. So
Add
these are
value.
the
Right.
points I'm making.
Add value.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, man. So we're just saying that, solidarity is a key thing to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. And we're saying, um,
I wish I could say sisters.
we just want to say that, be stand on principle. And not just in words, but in deeds. Yeah, man, stand on principle.
I said the perfect balance, third class. I don't know, say a truck for the living for this represents. Good over evil, me tell them see a life over death. I swear, said I will never switch. Keep the fire burning out. Holy Manuel I Selassie, Jah, blazing fire.